You've always said you loved leading,
Right.
which is why you ultimately decided to become a coach. What about leading do you love?
Well, I think leading is it's the most dynamic thing that you could do, and the most exciting thing you can do, whether it be in business, your own family, a church, a team, because it's constantly changing. And the reason it's constantly changing is because people are constantly changing, and cultures are constantly changing. And so you can never learn everything there is to know about leading. And it's very exciting, and you get to the core of who people actually are. And then if you can get all those people to work together for a common cause, that's like the best thing in the whole world.
I mentioned I spoke to Morgan Stanley Chairman John Mack, and he told me that you've made him become a more direct person, and actually that you gave him advice preceding a speech he gave about the financial crisis to Wharton Business School, and he credits that with being the best speech he's ever given. What advice have you given to
Well,
John
I'm not
Mack?
sure how much advice I've given John Mack. He and I are very close friends, and I think one of the things, I always tell him is he has a great presence. Yeah, I mean, he's a powerful guy, obviously very smart and quick-witted. And but at times when you're a leader and you're in that top office, you sometimes can lose touch in how direct you might have to be, and how to be direct. And with that particular situation, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something like, just tell them the truth in the way that in the way that it happened, and it'll just come out the right way, and do it in your own style. And John did an amazing thing to save his company. And that's the reason the speech went well, not because of any advice that was given. The outcome was pretty darn good.
He said he finds you to be, hands down, the most direct person he's ever met in his life. To what extent, if any, do you find that surprising?
No, well, because he hasn't met himself. He's pretty direct too, which is good. Basically, John and I are really good friends because we truly believe that you should look someone else in the eye, the other person in the eye, and tell the truth all the time. In other words, the truth at an instant, not a minute later or an hour later or when it's convenient, but the truth, whether it be, boy, you look good, or you don't look good. We got to do something about this. But to have a relationship with that person so that they will accept the truth. If you don't communicate ever with that person and then all of a sudden you don't look good, man, that's a rude thing to say, But if you know them, like, you don't look good right now, and here's what we're going to do about it. That type of thing. And John and I have talked about how to communicate, why that's important. And in his business, he needs the truth right away, and certainly in mine, I need it right away.
Speaking of being direct and telling the truth regardless of how, I guess, brutally honest it might be, the first date you went on with your wife, did you really tell her that she was your third option and the first two girls
Well,
said no?
It's a longer story than that. I mean, I didn't come out and say, by the way, Mickey, you're, but I was a cadet. I was, we have an honor code. You don't lie, cheat, or steal. Now, there is what they call social honor, where, if you're at someone's home and it's not a good meal, where you don't say, ma'am, that was a horrible meal. And you say, thank you very much for the good meal. But as we were on the date, I felt guilty for some reason. And I just said, it wasn't like in bravado or anything, like you're the third option. I said, I just want you to know this is how this happened.
And you felt guilty because she didn't know that she was your
didn't
third
know
option?
that. And, but the third option was the best option. In other words, it doesn't mean she was third best. It took me until the third to get the best. And anyway, I think I got out of that all right.
How'd she respond?
No, she's obviously, we're married for 41 years, so it must have worked.
Right. Your wife once said, and I quote, I heard a voice, thought he was on the phone, but then heard the words and thought, who is he talking to like that? I peeked in and he's standing looking in the mirror, just cussing himself out. You dumb, on and on and on, called himself a compromising son of a...
Bucket, yeah.
Why?
Well, yeah, I think it's probably during a time in coaching where I took a course of action where I compromised, and I didn't. And who tells me when I'm wrong? I mean, the press may try to do that, but a lot of times they're wrong and tell me what I'm doing wrong, or giving suggestions. But everyone, you have to be brutally honest with yourself, and sometimes, I mean, I don't do that every day, or else I wouldn't be coaching. I'd be someplace else where people would be taking care of me. But just, it was kind of revving yourself up. Sometimes before I give a speech, I'm doing a speech for a conference or a business or some type of gathering, and to get myself motivated, like, you're going to be good. This is going to go well. You're going to be strong. And then when you're looking in the mirror, you can see yourself strong. I need to show a strong face. And I guess when she heard me do that, it was at a time where, like, don't do that anymore, knucklehead. Like, you can't compromise. And it was kind of to get myself built up, because I probably had to do something strong that day that was a little bit against the grain of what I had been doing, and just for motivation.
And that was several years ago, I believe. To what extent will you beat yourself up as bad now as you may have done?
I don't know if it's
earlier?
beating yourself up. It's being honest with yourself. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to verbally say it in the mirror, but at times, as a leader, you need to reflect. You shouldn't just do. So, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? What's my plan for tomorrow? The night before, I'm thinking of that. Sometimes I'll wake up during the night and wake up with an idea because I went to bed thinking of my plan. At the end of the day, to critique yourself, how did my plan go? And so you're constantly talking to yourself, because you have to critique what you're doing. You have to be honest with what you're doing, and then hopefully you surround yourself with enough people who will also be honest with you. But the higher you go in accomplishment, the less the chances lessen of somebody else telling you what to do. And so what you need to do along the way is empower people where they're doing a lot of the things, not delegate, empower where they're doing a lot of the things that you were doing, which saves you from you doing it wrong, and them doing it. I don't know if that makes sense, but as you evolve as a leader and as you evolve in your organization, that type of thing should take place, and that's what I'm trying to do with my program right now, and have been for the last 7 or 8 years.
And interestingly, John Jackson, who heads your media department, we were speaking about that yesterday, how everybody involved with your program really feels like they have a say in it, and that's because of you and the environment you've created. How do you think you've changed over the years as a coach?
Well, I think, first of all, I've learned more as a coach along the way, just as a coach, not necessarily a leader and a coach, just about the game. I've learned an inordinate amount at this time, in these last 5 years. I'm 63, so when I got the head coaching job for the national team, for our U.S. team, the Olympic team, the World Championship team, these 5 years have been incredible for me to learn. But as far as learning at Duke, about the mid-90s, I made a drastic change when I got sick during the 94-95 season. I mean, I had to step away for half the season, and I was more of a micromanager before that. And after that, I started doing things a lot different to where we are today. Empowering people or letting them do something gives them ownership. More people should own your team than you. In fact, everybody on your team should own the team. Everybody should be important. Everybody's role should have an ego attached to it. And then if you can coordinate all that together, you'll be better. And that's where I'm at right now in what I do. I feel very comfortable in coaching and leading in that manner.
How do you know exactly how one of your players is feeling at a particular moment and exactly what needs to be done to get that player to maximize their talent in that moment?
Yeah, I'm not sure you ever know exactly, but you do it through communication, but not just verbal communication. Obviously, if he says I'm not confident, or I'm scared, or I'm nervous, or whatever, I mean, those things happen. It's not going well for me, or it is going well for me, or But you have to read your players by knowing them facially, mannerisms, like how do they talk to you and how do they talk to one another. And I'm a big believer in a person's face tells you a lot. He's not as engaged right now. And instead of waiting to what would happen because of not being engaged, if I see that, I'll say, are you okay? You don't look sharp right now. No, I'm good, coach. Yeah, I'm good. Or, this is happening. Okay, let's take care of that. So how they walk, is he a talker usually? Is he usually enthusiastic? Is he medium? And now he's not doing it. In other words, don't just run a play or a drill. Look at your people while they're doing it, before they do it, and try to anticipate something that might be wrong before it goes wrong. Without getting data, without Googling it, or without getting information. How do you get that information about a person? And you only do that by getting to know them, by watching them on tape, having meetings with them. I don't have a lot of business meetings with my players. I share an office in the locker room area during the season, where I'm there more so than in my main office. And I'll work out there, I'll do work, watch tape and whatever, but also interact with my guys in an impromptu type of way. And they give me more in those settings than they would meet me in my office at 1 o'clock type of thing. So those are just ways that I try to learn about my people.
Every player obviously responds differently, and different things work for different players. One of your former players, Mark Allery, you knew, I guess, he responded well to criticism, and you had just come off a tough loss to NC State. You're in the locker room. There's a picture of Allery, I guess, on one of the walls diving for a ball. What did you do?
Well, it's a long time ago, first of all, and again, during that time, like Mark, this was in the 80s, mid-80s, and Mark Allery was really one of the top players to ever play here at Duke. But I knew he had a mean streak in him. He had a fire to him, and not as many players as you would think have that. He had it along with ability, but he wasn't having it for a few games. And basically what I did is I broke the picture. I threw the picture and it broke, the glass and whatever. I said, this is who you used to be. This is not who you are right now. I wish I could coach the kid that was in that picture. And he didn't need much more. I'm not sure I would do that exactly that way today. It would take a strong kid to get that. In other words, you don't just do the same things for everyone or in the same culture. Now, 25 years, it's hard to believe, 25 years later, would that work for anybody on our team? Maybe one kid, but in other words, just because it was good for them doesn't mean it's good now. And as a leader, you have to evolve. Like, you have to keep changing, not your value system, but how you teach those values. How do you motivate? I motivate the guys on the Olympic team differently than I motivate the guys on my Duke team, stuff like that. But in Mark's case, he responded, and but I knew he would. And I also I trusted our relationship that, it wouldn't shatter like the glass in the picture. It would actually blossom he needed something extraordinary to happen.
Right, and I believe that was in front of the team after
Oh no,
you,
it was definitely in front of the team.
I think you said his play was pathetic or something like that.
It was. Yeah.
How much thought did you give in advance of breaking the picture and what you said prior to actually doing it?
Probably not that much.
Okay.
I don't remember
Okay.
exactly, but it wasn't a planned
Okay.
thing. But I also was frustrated that I wasn't getting to him.
Okay.
And again, he was an older, he's a veteran. It's not like he's never played. He has played really well. It was okay, where is that spark? Where is that passion? I see it in the picture. I don't see it in you anymore. Why? And in just talking about it, he still wasn't able to get it. So it just needed a bomb, something. And now, in 1990s, there were some different bombs. In the 2000s, there were, but every once in a while, a kid needs that or a team needs that. And then what do? I don't have a book of, okay, I'm going to do Plan 33 now, or this worked in '86. Let's do. It's not as contrived as that. It's spontaneous.
Syracuse University basketball coach Jim Boeheim. He's also an assistant for.
He's He's a co-coach, not an assistant.
Okay.
He's too good to be an assistant.
A co-coach of Team USA. I was speaking to him yesterday, and he was talking about some of the criticism that Team USA received prior to the results actually coming, and some of that was many thinking NBA players couldn't play together on the team, would be unable to make sacrifices. You yourself have said the hardest thing to teach is players, getting them to play together.
Right.
How were you able to do it?
Well, it's a collective effort. In other words, USA Basketball, before Jerry Colangelo, the former owner of the Phoenix Suns, and now he runs USA Basketball, or is the chairman. Before Jerry took over, and he asked me, and then I asked Jim to be on the staff, there was no culture. In other words, you got a group of people, they got together for a short time, and you played. Doesn't mean you were a team. But there was no culture for USA Basketball. And basically, in order to have culture, you have to put time in and you have to have continuity. And so what we've done over the last 5 years is we've created a culture, we all have, of excellence, of self-service, of wanting to represent your country, and building our thing on standards, like how are we going to live together. And the guys have been acceptant of that. I mean, NBA players those guys are good guys. They're top-notch professionals. You have to relate to them in the way that they deserve to be related to, in an honest, open, professional fashion, but where they also know that this is bigger than them. What we're doing is bigger than any one individual, and therefore every individual is really important in order for us to be as big as we need to be to represent the United States.
The time during one of the first practices that LeBron turned his back on you while you were talking to him, what did you do versus what everybody thought you should have done?
Well, first of all, I don't like to yell a lot. I don't yell as much as I did when I was a younger coach, but I never really yell with the national team. And in LeBron's case, LeBron and I have a great relationship. Well, how do we get that? We get that from being honest from the get-go. In that particular situation, it was, look at me. Like, we need to have eye-to-eye contact. In my younger days, or if it was someone said, "What the hell are you doing?" It would be a huge confrontation. And we tried, but they're not accustomed to looking at everybody all the time. And so it actually became one of our standards. There are 14 standards that our U.S. Olympic team had. It's the way you live, the way you expect other people to live. We have no rules, but we have standards.
What are the standards?
Well, one of them what came from that is when we talk to each other, we look each other in the eye. Another standard is we tell each other the truth. A standard that LeBron introduced to the whole team when we met was no excuses. Never make an excuse. That doesn't mean you don't figure out why you do it. A standard can be not being late, never having a bad practice, having each other's back, being flexible, having a strong face all the time. Remember that you're representing something bigger than you. These are all things that I didn't come up with, we all came up with. And as a result, it was ours. And that's why our group got along so well together, is because it was never anybody imposing my rule on somebody. It was all of us imposing and living our standards. And we get that. There's a process to get through there. You don't just say, here are the standards. You have to have situations where you like that situation with LeBron, was the cause of us becoming better. And LeBron's really one of our best leaders.
How did he respond the first time you told him to look at you in the eyes?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. Okay. All I know is it wasn't what he normally did. Just like when, a lot of times guys have headsets on and things like that, and they're talking to him. Our rule is, not rule, our standard is, when we talk, it's just you and me. So whatever you're doing, take that off, and now look at me. You're not texting. You're not doing any of that. It's me and you. In other words, we respect one another. We respect that time, so that if we want to grow into be something special, we need to really respect one another, and we need to really respect each other's time. And all those guys get that, and we get it. It's just that it's not done a lot. It's just not done a lot. So there has to be a period of time where we have to get enough situations that have occurred to where we have a chance to form the standards necessary.
What most impresses you about LeBron, and what most impresses you about Kobe?
Well, LeBron, I think LeBron has one. He's an incredible athlete, but along with his incredible, he's one of a kind. But along with that, he's brilliant. He's really smart, and he has, I think, incredible leadership qualities, because he can communicate really well. His voice is good, his presence is good, and he has a good value structure. He knows right and wrong, and he's got it all. I think he's still developing it. It's not over for him. It's not just started. He's way along, but a lot of really great things will happen. Kobe now is older, and Kobe's sense of preparedness, or his willingness to prepare, is beyond anybody I've ever seen. He loves the arena in the moment. He's never going to feel pressure, but Kobe prepares for that. Kobe prepares as well as anybody I have ever seen for anything.
Really?
Anything. And those two guys are, they're special guys. They're two of the top 3 or 4 players in the world.
Boeheim said the same about you as a basketball coach. Tell me about the time, 1992 Dream Team, you're an assistant coach, and Michael Jordan comes up to you and asks for help.
Well, it's really one of the great moments for me. I was an assistant coach for Chuck Daly on the Dream Team, and we just won 2 national championships. You think you're pretty darn good, and all of a sudden you're with David Robinson and Magic and Larry and Drexler and Barkley and Mullen and Ewing and Stockton and Malone and all these guys, Pippen, and then there's Jordan. And it was after our first practice. I felt good because they didn't make a mistake their first practice, and I'm just sitting there, and he came over and he says, "Coach, yeah, would you please, I'd like to work on some of my offensive stuff. Would you please work with me? And yeah, I thought he was coming over to give me a hard time because he's from North Carolina, I'm from Duke, and I actually think it was his way of making me feel comfortable. But he said coach, and he said please, and when it was over, he said thanks. And he could have said, hey, get over here, idiot, and work with me, and I would have done that. I would have done it, just like a lot of people in workplaces will do their job. But then I would have felt as inconsequential and no ego and whatever, because it was stripped from me by the main guy. Instead, he gave me a chance to have an ego, and then he called me with respect, coach, just by knowing a person's name. He said please and thank you. In other words, there was no organizational chart where he was the top guy and I'm here on the bottom. It was like this. On his team, everybody was important. And he also wanted, I think, he never said this, but my feeling is he wanted to make sure we don't do any of that Duke Carolina stuff. We're here with the U.S. team, and we're both going to do this well. It was a tremendous, tremendous thing. And I'm not sure he knew everything that he was doing. He just did it naturally. But that's what I took from that situation. I try to do my thing all the time now better as a result of that one experience of having that stinking, just shooting and coach, please, thank you, we're okay, and the bar's this way, not that way, with importance.
You won the 2010 World Championship. Team USA won gold in 2008. How about your fondest Olympic memory to date?
Well, first of all, overall, it's been an unbelievable honor, to be the national coach and, be with all these guys and how much they love playing for their country. For me, always the moment is, our flag goes up and it's above all the others, and our anthem's being played, and you got your hand over your heart, and we just won. It's not even the moment of winning as much as seeing. I got chills all over me because it's been reenacted twice. It's been done twice for me as a head coach, and that can't happen. For many people. You know what I mean? Like, you're the guy, okay, so you're the lucky guy. And I think the players feel that way. I'm the lucky player who now sees that, but they not only see it, they feel it. And they'll feel it forever. They'll feel that moment forever because it's a most unique moment.
I want to run through some notable moments from your Duke basketball career thus far. The first being the '92 NCAA East Regional Finals. You're playing Kentucky. Kentucky leads 103-102. Duke calls timeout with 2.1 seconds left. What do you say to your team and your reaction to what followed after that?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I thought really we were going to win. But as a leader, you have to portray the confidence of saying we're going to win. And you try to get everybody on the same page. So when we called a timeout as they came over to the bench, I looked, as they're coming, I said, we're going to win. And when they're on the bench, again, we have this eye-to-eye contact, truth thing, trust. And I said, we're going to win. You understand that? We're going to win. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm this prophet or anything like that, because I'm not. But you try to put them in a position where they feel that. And then we went through what we were going to do. And, Grant was going to take the ball out. Christian was going to come up. And, if he couldn't get a shot, he was going to hit guys going to the basket. And hopefully you get a shot. In those situations, you want a shot. And then I asked Grant, I said, can you throw the ball 75 feet? And he said yes. And a lot of times when you ask somebody to do something, they say they'll do it. In their mind, they've already done it. And then I asked Christian, I said, if when you come up from the baseline, will you catch it? And Christian said, Coach, if Grant throws a good pass, I'll catch it. And he had a way of like breaking the ice. Not that it was funny, but it was, okay, there was another voice in there. And I said, okay, and then Grant threw it, and Christian caught it. He wasn't supposed to dribble it, but he dribbled it, and then he hit his 20th shot that day. He was 20 for 20, 10 for 10 from the field, and 10 for 10 from the free throw line. And it's a pretty good chance that, to go to him at that point. Red was coming up all the time on the roulette wheel, let's put it that way.
And that was all that was needed. Duke won as time expired, and the rest is history. You played Kentucky again in the '98 national title game. You're up by 17, I think, but then as 10 minutes tick off the clock, Kentucky ends up coming back and winning the game. After the game, everybody's crying on Duke, from players to the sports information director to the trainer, and everybody's consoling each other as well. And you said you realized at that point that it was a great year.
Well,
why?
We were, that 98 was 3 years removed from me being out a half a year. It was 2 years removed from being, and we were 13 and 18. It was 2 years removed at the end of the 96 season from being 18 and 13. In other words, we were 31 and 31 for those 2 years. And now this group that we were going to try to build our program and get everything back together had put us in a position where we're that close. We're that close. But it didn't happen. But it did happen. In other words, I knew with that team and how they all felt that what we had done for the last 3 years to put us in that position had taken hold. And so the result of the game was not going to ruin what we had built. It really confirmed itself. In other words, we should be crying and we should be beyond being consoled because we've put so much into it. And I didn't know just how much we put into it until that moment where I saw what the loss of a game, the loss of a chance to win a national championship would do. And as a result, I think our program has taken on another life of excellence while we were searching for excellence for a couple years there.
Your 2010 national championship team, to what extent has that been your most satisfying season as a college basketball coach?
Well, 2010, the national championship, those young men were really as pure a team as I've ever had an opportunity to coach. A lot of it had to do with the 3 seniors on the team had come in as freshmen, and they didn't have any seniors to teach them, and they only had 1 junior. And they won 22 games, but they got a lot of negative stuff, although they should have gotten a lot of positive stuff, but it wasn't the 28 or 29 wins that a Duke team gets. And then they got 28, but then they got beat in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Then they got 30, and they were beaten in the Sweet 16, but they got beat by a lot. And so they have a lot of scars. They've been in a lot of fights, and they got better. And they were so beautiful and so together that whole year that when we finally did it, it was like, I just thank the basketball gods for rewarding. It's like, it wasn't about me, it was about what they did in the bumps and bruises and things like that. And then to end, for John Shire, Lance Thomas, and Brian Zubek to end up as national champions, just the best story. It's a 4-year tale that doesn't usually happen anymore at our level because you usually don't have seniors. these guys are gone by that time. And so it's like old school, pure, and the game we won was a magnificent game.
How does Kyrie Irving compare to other point guards you've coached?
Well, Kyrie is as talented as any point guard I've coached. He has a combination of the maturity of my first point guard, Tommy Amaker, who was old beyond his years when he first came in. He could handle not just the talent of being a point guard, but being a leader, the maturity of what you need to do going into a big game, late game situations. But Kyrie has athletic ability like a Jason Williams. And so you put those two together and you have the makings of a very, very special basketball player.
What are your expectations for this season's Duke University basketball team?
My expectation for any one of our teams, including this one, is to play hard and play smart and play together in every game, and to treat every game the same. If we do that, we'll win more games, we'll continue to improve as a team, and we'll be at our best at the end when everybody else thinks that that's the only big games that you're going to play. And I just do one game at a time like that, but knowing that we have a talent level that if we do that, this team can be in contention for a national championship. It will only do that if it prepares the right way along the way and hopefully stays as healthy as possible.
Your agent, David Falk, told me that you told him players being recruited generally have about a 20-minute attention span. How do you use those 20 minutes?
Well, I think players have a short attention span, and actually people have a short attention span, especially when they're listening to people talking, because we're so visual now. They'll look at something, or something will be, they'll be mesmerized with a computer, their phone, whatever. But people-to-people stuff, it's tough to do that. So I think humor is a good way of getting an extra minute or two, and getting their attention a little bit more. Also, making sure where you're talking to them. Try not to talk too long, but to stretch it, if you need to stretch it. Are you the only person that can talk to that player? In other words, different voices. If I think we need 20 minutes of stuff with the team, I probably won't talk for those 20 minutes. One of my associate head coaches or an assistant coach, they're going to say something. I might show a short tape. I might do something, and we got 20 minutes, but they absorb more because they weren't just drinking from one glass, mine. There were a few glasses, and they drank more knowledge because of this one was strawberry, this one was chocolate. Different ways of putting the same stuff across. And I try to do that with our Olympic team, with my Duke team, and it also empowers the other people who are speaking, where they get ownership, and sometimes also they say things better than you. I might use an example that's not as current as what Wojo or Chris Collins might use with one of the guys on the team, that kind of stuff.
How do you reconcile recruiting the sport's best player, who will likely only be around a year prior to going to the NBA, with recruiting a player slightly less talented but will stay around much longer?
Yeah, when we say that a kid might stay around much longer than 1 year or 2 years, doesn't mean he's less talented than those other guys. He's just not as ready to do it as someone else. Basically, I would tell a youngster, never have that plan in place yet, because that means you already know who you're going to be. Rather just run your race. What race is it? Is it 1 year race, 2 years, or whatever to get to the pros? Is that the only race you want to run? Do you want to run an education race? Do you want to develop yourself as a person? Hopefully, even if you're here for 1 year, you're still running those other races, because The basketball race will be done in your early 30s, maybe mid 30s. The other race will go on.
Right.
So let's be prepared for all the races. And then if you're more ready than me, I shouldn't be envious of the race you're running. I should just run mine. And then collectively, if we're doing, let's run one race together, and that's to win and be as good as we can be while I'm becoming as good as I can be.
Spring of '99, Elton Brand makes the decision to go pro, as do two others. Another player transfers.
Right.
Your daughter Lindy said that really hurt you, and you almost felt betrayed. How so?
Well, I don't. It hurt me in some respects. I don't know, betrayed, because I mean, I wanted Elton to go. I mean, Elton was going to be the first or second pick, and so you have to kind of. It wasn't just lumped into one thing, like all these guys are leaving. It was he should leave. That's the most opportunistic time for him to leave. I'd rather not have the youngster who transfer because he was running a race that I thought he was going to really accelerate on his next year, especially with Elton going. But again, he had that decision to make. With the other two youngsters, I thought it was not the best time for them to go to pro because I didn't think that they were as ready and that they would develop enough to maximize who they would be in the pros. And so when I give advice for a kid, it's for their benefit. Like, if they're ready to go and it's the right time, I'm all for that. But I'm also going to tell them if I think it would benefit them in the short and long term, hopefully, to stay another year or to do something because they should be a little bit better. So every situation's a little bit different. I don't know if I felt betrayed as much as it just a big exodus, and we ended up only having 3 players left, that had some type of experience, whereas we were real close to winning the championship that year, and then I had 2 days after losing the national championship game, I had my first hip replacement. So I was vulnerable.
Right. By the early to mid-'90s, there were greater and greater demands on your time. You alluded to this briefly earlier, the '94 disc surgery. How quickly did you realize you came back too soon?
Not soon enough. First of all, we had gone to 7 Final Fours in 9 years. That's a lot. That's a lot. And, what it produced was a longer season, but also produced an inordinate amount of demands on you for everything. My program wasn't set up to handle all those things. And as a result, when I had my back surgery, basically I had my back surgery, we had already started practice. And I went in and I had problems with my leg. But when I went in to see a neurosurgeon and they tested me and they had me hop on this leg, I collapsed. And I had what's called a dead foot. And the doctor said, I said, whoa, I said, can you fix it? He said, yeah, you better get an operation right now or you can be Quasimodo. You can walk around, I said, well, let's get the operation. Well, practice had already started. And, he said, you should be out about a month. Just give it time and rehab. And, after a couple days, again, you think you're Superman and you go back. That was stupid to do, and nobody was strong enough to beat me from being stupid.
Although your wife said when you weren't taking care of yourself, she finally called, made a 2 o'clock doctor appointment for you, then called you to say when the doctor appointment was, and you said, look, I have practice. And she responded by saying, I'm going to be there at that time. If you aren't, don't come home.
Right.
What was your reaction?
Well, but she let stupid go a long way, because that wasn't right away. It was after a couple of months.
Okay.
I'm glad she did it. Obviously, it was a great thing for her to do. But basically, I'm thankful that she did it. Basically, I just got completely run down. I never did the proper stuff to make my back as good as it could be. I was exhausted, burned out, exhausted, and had not taken care of my surgery. You know, it shouldn't get to that. It shouldn't get to, and when she saw that where it was, and then once I got into it, then I saw it. And then people did step in and say, you're not coming back for the rest of this season. And it took me a few months, not just physically, but mentally, and just to feel, to get passion back and whatever. It took counseling. It took it took a team of people that are great to help me get back to where I was ready to go again. And I'm very thankful that my school, my family, my wife was committed enough to me, to do that, because I wouldn't have been able to do that on my own.
And that was the time in which you also offered to resign, I believe. Obviously, the experience making you a better person and a better coach for what you went through. Talk about the time you stole coins from your father and what you learned from that.
Oh, that was really a long time ago. When, I don't know if I was 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. When you're 63, it's tough to remember, that far back. But I do remember, my dad would, when he walked around, he had a lot of change in his pocket, would always, jingle. And I remember that I wanted to get some candy, and it cost money. And I said, well, wouldn't be bad. He has so much change in his pocket that he's not going to miss, I don't know, 50 cents or a quarter or whatever it was. And so he used to hang his pants up, and I went in, I took that quarter. I think it was a quarter. And I went and I said, he'll never know about it. And it ended up that it was his lucky quarter, or, and so he did notice it. And eventually asked me about it, and I told him I didn't take it. And then a little bit later, guilt got, and he knew that I did, and he pursued it in his own way. And so not only had I stolen the money, but I had lied about it. And basically it was an unbelievable learning lesson for me, where he told me, you can't steal, but then you really can never lie. And it's one of those lessons in life that then I went to a school at West Point where you don't lie or cheat or steal. So, but that was a good lesson for me.
Your father was an elevator operator. Your mom washed floors in the evening. I believe you spoke to your mom. You called your mom after every single game until she passed away. The time that she asked, how did this all happen, meaning how people view you today, the successful coach, the court that's named after you. What do you recall from that conversation?
Well, it's a very a good moment. I think every son or daughter would like in their life to have an opportunity, and not all people to have this opportunity, to say to their father and mother, thank you, or how they impacted on your life. I never had a chance to do that with my dad, because he died suddenly from a cerebral hemorrhage when I was a senior at West Point. And my mom lived to be in her 80s, and one of the days when she was down in North Carolina helping us during our camp, taking care of my youngest daughter, Jamie, we were sitting on a porch, and there was a TV on, and I was on TV, and it prompted her to say, Mike, like, how did this happen? How did this happen? And it was an opportunity. And I said, Mom, it happened because of you. It's, come on. You got to be sad. That, an old Polish lady like me, there's no way. I said, Mom, it happened because of you. Every day, my brother Bill and I were dressed right. We never knew, not that we were poor, but we knew we weren't rich, but we didn't have, but we always had whatever we needed. You only had 2 dresses in your closet, and you were always organized. Every time you baked, it was always the best. You always gave me unfailing love and unconditional support. You created an atmosphere for me that it was impossible to lose. If you had what I had, you would be in my place. And and it's true. And I'm glad that my mom had an opportunity to hear that from me. Hope for her, but mainly from me. For me, my mom was a huge, huge influence in my life.
In the remaining moments I have with you, just a few lighter topics, things that people may not know about you. John Mack, chairman of Morgan Stanley, said he helped you learn to get better wine.
Yeah, I do like wine a lot, and John's helped me taste some better wines than some others, and he's tried to teach me and has taught me. I don't need his help anymore, although he can still give me some good wine or share some good wine with me. But wine is my wife and I host a wine celebration in Napa now with the V Foundation that raises a lot of money during the summer, and we've gotten to meet amazing people there. But to me, when I hear wine, I think friends. When I hear wine, I think of a gathering of people that you want to be with, and that you want to be sincere with, and that you want to be loving with, and a lot of times we'll break out wines based on, well, remember when we were here, or this bottle of wine was sent by, say, John and Christy Mack. Well, even though they're not there, they are there. And so to understand the culture of not just drinking a wine, but what it does, and I like that. My family has embraced that also.
Tell me about the wine cellar you put in your house that you had remodeled.
Yeah, a few years ago, because we started getting a lot of wine buying, some people sending, and my wife and I said, we should have a wine cellar, and now we do, and it's climate controlled, and my wife did an unbelievable job with it. It actually looks like it's one of the wine cellars in Napa, with the stone and all that, and 2,500 bottles of wine, which isn't extraordinary, but for us it's good. And it's a nice place, because when friends come over or family come over, say, let's take a look. What wines do you think we should have tonight? And my sons-in-laws really like it, especially if I give them a free pass. I said, okay, it's your selection. Let's see who you, and they end up taking advantage of it. But it's a lot of fun.
What was involved on your end in remodeling your home?
In remodeling the home, my wife along the way would show me different things, but I don't have a vision for that kind of stuff, but I know certain things I like. But once I see things, then I can add to it. But she was the controller of all that. The thing I do see is landscaping. I love the outdoors. I love flowers, trees. I love trees and different ways of putting all that together. And so I do a lot of that outside, and she really takes care of everything kind of inside.
Tell me about your garden and your interest in gardening.
Well, and growing up in Chicago in the inner city, even though it was inner city, in our Polish neighborhood, there were flowers and beautiful lawns. They were just small. and you watered them, you took care of them. There was never dirty, and people had pride. And so every place we live, I try to have flowers and that. And we have a pretty nice place now on a lot of land, and there are a lot of deer and squirrels, but rabbits.
You don't like the deer, I understand.
I do like the deer from a distance, and I don't like them when they're eating my azaleas or rhododendrons or pansies or different things that they eat. So you have to be selective in how you plant, what you plant, and then that's why you want bigger decks, because then if you can't protect the flowers when they're on the decks. But that and having a dog, the outdoors and having a dog are very good settling things for me. They ground me. They make me. They take away a lot of stress and make me feel a little bit more human than sometimes my job does.
The last few questions for you. Your diet. How's the diet?
No, I stay in decent shape. One, I try to work out almost every day. Working out means getting on a recumbent bike, doing a little bit in the steam room, and once or twice a week a little bit of lifting. Diet-wise, though, I take a lot of vitamins. I don't, I don't watch that closely, but I love salads. I love pastas, and I don't probably eat as much red meat as I used to eat. And I love fish, which, again, growing up, I would never have thought how much I love fish.
How much longer do you see yourself coaching for?
I don't like to put time limits on anything. I feel really good. Actually, I feel better now than I did when I took over for our national team 5 years ago. I feel I've gotten more energy and more knowledge and more of a grasp of who I am as a coach and what I want to teach. And I'm not physically hampered. My age hasn't, there are no effects where where I can't move as well or whatever. I don't have the energy. I have all those things. And if I saw them lessening to the point where I couldn't give my guys the best, then I would step away. And I think it won't be spontaneous when I do it, but it won't be planned either. Because, I don't want a clock running out. He's going to do it for 3 more years or a year or 7 more years or whatever. I don't want to get into that. But I'm as energized as I really have ever been, about the game and about coaching.
The closest you ever were to becoming an NBA head coach, and why you made the decision that Duke University would be the only place you would ever be a head coach moving forward?
I came fairly close in 1990 with the Celtics because Dave Gavitt had taken over, and it's a storied franchise. I love the Celtic franchise, and fairly close then. But in 2000, I forget the year, 5 or with the Lakers, it was very close because I was 57 at that time, and I didn't know. I knew I got another run in me. I don't know how many years, 10 years or whatever it might be. And I love the pro game. Would this be the time? And then the Lakers were unbelievable in how they made their presentation and what they offered. And it too is one of the storied franchises in sport, and it would have been an amazing honor to do it. And I just could never leave Duke at the end of the day. This is my home. I have so much equity here. And the college game for me and working with young men, I don't know, it was, I don't know, I couldn't give that up. Selfishly, I couldn't give it up. And it wasn't about money, because it wasn't, actually, I've never made a decision, my career-wise, for money. You know, if I have to speak somewhere or make an appearance, that can be something for money. But career decisions I've made because it's what I want to really do. And as a result, we've had a great life. I've earned a lot of money, and I'm happy. And I'm still happy being the Duke coach and very proud of being the Duke coach.
Really a pleasure, sir.
All right, thank you.